Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we've got another lovely soul coming to us from across the pond. Her name's Hilary Porter. Hilary doesn't need much of an introduction. She's been quite active within the UFO community for a number of years. But for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting Hilary, Hilary Porter lives in Hampshire, United Kingdom. She is the co-founder of BEAMS, the British Earth and Aerial Mystery Society, a long-established investigation and studies forum dealing with all aspects of unexplained phenomena and the paranormal. Since her childhood, she has experienced numerous abduction-type experiences and had some major UFO sightings. From the mid-60s onwards, she has been a researcher of UFOs and related subjects, which has taken her down a fascinating path. For several years, she's contributed a collection of articles to well-known periodicals such as Alien Encounters, Witness, and also had material appear under various pseudonyms in books such as Nick Redfern's Cosmic Crashes and Covert Agenda. She also appeared on live TV's The Y Files program. When she left school in the early 60s, she had several jobs in engineering companies, of which there were many in this area. Then she saw an advertisement in her local paper for engineers needed at what was then the site of Elliott Automation, Frimley in Surrey. She was successful at the interview and got a job in the microcircuitry laboratory. She knew this was where the future in electronics was heading and wanted to be a part of it. In time, they were taken over by Marconi. From the very second this took place, nothing was ever the same again. The work changed to very hush-hush stuff, everything in duplicate and on strictly to no basis. It was at this time that the strange things started to happen within the company. Reports of hexagonal craft were coming in from witnesses who not only lived near the site, but from the general area as well. Because of her artistic skills, she was asked by the chief of draftsmen if she could consider an apprenticeship as a draftswoman. She jumped at the chance and became one of only a handful of women working in a very male-dominated environment. This work took her all over the company to many laboratories and offices, even to the outside firms from time to time. All employees had to sign the Official Secrets Act, and it's only now she can give the readers some insights as to what it was like to work in this environment. Hilary is also the author of the book, The Diaries and Recollections of an Alien Abductee, which can be purchased on Amazon. So, Hilary, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you and to say hi to everybody. That was great.
So yeah, you've been really active within the field, and you've got an amazing story. I've read your book twice, and it took a lot of notes. Hopefully, we can get into much of it. But if we need to ever do like a part 2 down the road, we could like finish halfway. No worries. So when did your story start?
Well, it began in babyhood when I was first born. My mother said that in fact, she didn't tell me till '09 because I was doing a program then and going to be filmed and stuff. And she said, there's something you really need to know. I said, okay, Mum. And she came round and had a coffee with me and we chatted. And she said to me, I have to tell you that right from babyhood, when you were born, that they were taking you. She said, there was nothing I could do. They left it completely unable to move. And I couldn't do a thing. I couldn't shout. I couldn't do anything. Then he said, it carried on bit by bit. She would take them when I got home from the bed and the cot and things like that. When I was in the bedroom, this little baby, little tiny baby, up in the bedroom, and she'd find me on the floor, things like that. Well, how on earth did a little tiny baby get on the floor? So this went on, and then when I got to about 2, so we'd moved them to our own home because I was living with my grandfather. It had a garden, and I was just a toddler. They shored the garden up well so that I couldn't get out or anything like that. Then I was to stand at the window, was seeing this little top sitting on this little step towards the garden, and she would see me talking as though I was talking to someone and things like that. I said, yes, Mummy, that's Manny Man. She said, what do you mean, Manny Man? He said, I can't see him. I said, no, we talk, he comes and then he goes. And then soon after that, I began to be taken from the garden. And she thought, oh my God, where's she gone? How could she get out? We've drawn it up left, right, and centre. No way she can get out. Of course, she was then put out as well, where she couldn't move or anything. And then when she came round, she found I was missing, and all she could do was then get on her bicycle and cycle all round the different places in Clover Road till she found me. And very often she found me in Rathborough, RAF Borough. RAF Borough is where the men from the Royal Aircraft Establishment, Farnborough, what lived, and they worked just over the way, in the airfield, and on the airfield, and flying planes, the usual thing. So that's how she would find me, and then she'd have to take me back home on the bike. Sometimes she said, oh, you are naughty, you got out, and she'd smack my leg. That wasn't very nice. But I said, Mummy, I don't know how I got here. I don't know. So she said, all right. She said, it was a headache for her. Then I couldn't understand. I realised, what she was living with. And I mean, she didn't open up and give me all these details until '09 when I was going to do a program for richplanet.net. And he was coming round with his friend, his lady friend, who's now his wife, I think. And he said, you do need to know. And she filled me in with all this stuff. I said, Mum, I had no idea. Oh, no, she said, this is what it was like. He said, your other sisters were okay. You've got a middle sister and a younger sister. And, they were all right. It was just you. They kept on taking you. Then, so you start to grow up a little bit, don't you? And things like that. And then it went into, once you get into, well, I was allowed to go out and play for a while outside the house and go down the road and things because it wasn't like it is now. We've got cars and stuff everywhere and dangerous. And we had a field in the centre of Cove. And on this particular occasion, I saw something in the field. I went to the entrance, to the lower entrance, because there was two. And I think I must have had, maybe I saw something before I went in the field. But when I got into the field, there was this white thing on the ground over near the school, not far from the school. And I thought, oh, I better get down in the ground. Well, there's long grass growing all summer. So I went and crawled along on my elbows and popping my head up every now and again. When suddenly, now this was taken from my crisis abduction in '94, but it goes in sequence. A small reptilian, a kind of reptilian being, suddenly was in front of me. And I thought, oh, crumbs, I'm a little kid. I mean, in those days, you only had radio, and you certainly didn't have anything about reptiles or nothing like you've got now. And this thing took my arms and dragged me across the field and underneath this disc that was on the ground. And it had a tube, and we went into the tube. The tube sort of opened and closed again. And it was dark in there, totally dark. You couldn't see anything. And we rose up into a round chamber. Whether we were flying at the time or just on the ground, I don't know. But I do know it was black as ink up there. But all you had was the light from, I suppose, what you call console. I didn't know then what that was, but I saw these coloured lights all around. And I couldn't see the beams either, it was so dark. But they started stripping me off and taking my little trousers off, and they shoved me on this cold surface. And then they started to prod me with this very sharp shot, really prodding me. It was horrible. And I've got the scar to that, it's always been there. Thank you very much. That's what they did. And then I was screaming, and I don't remember anymore after that. And then a flashback came not so long ago, where I'd must have had this situation happen to me, and I remember coming in with Grey's knees. I think so, my knees were raised, and Mum said, I'll put you up on the draining board, go and get the first aid kit. So she stuck me up on the draining board, got the first aid kit, and cleaned my knees up. But while she was out in the bathroom, I was sitting on the side, on the counter, in the kitchen, and I was right by the window, and I just happened to be just quite calm, looking out the window, and I saw a bit of this disc slide out from a very big grey thundercloud, because it was very close, hot weather, and this curtain, oh my God, I shot backwards to the wall, and I was pushing the curtain across so I must have known that this thing was dangerous, and I pushed and pushed and pushed until I got it. I thought I was protected, but she was saying when she got in the kitchen again, oh, what are you doing? I said, it's out there, Mummy, it's out there. She said, what's out there? I said, this thing, it's flying in the sky. And she said, she had a look and said, I can't see anything, so that was a little flashback. I guess that was connected. This is what happens with abductees. You can go a very long time before you get anything back. But other times you can remember some things, and that's why I've drawn and done all the artwork and everything from the memories that I had got. And I've got a little art book which I've done, and that's got other art material in there, just basically pictures, because I feel a lot of people, I've been doing for many years counselling for abductees, and I found that was a very important thing to do, because they've got nowhere to go. Here, it's not like you've got David Jacob like in America, or when you used to have Bud Hopkins and Daisy Mack and all that. Here we've got nothing at all. So, but that didn't come until I'd had the crisis abduction. And I have to do this, put it that way around, because it's how it happened in my life. After the crisis abduction in '94, I was really out of it for 9 months, I would say. But I am was a full-time carer as well. My daughter Sally, and I had to be with it, look after everything. There was no other way, and that's what I did. And somehow I managed to keep going. But then I decided after about 9 months I couldn't take any more of this. I thought, you either embrace this situation or you go completely bloody what's it, I thought, no, I can't do that, it's not acceptable. I can't do it, So that's what I thought. Right, okay, I will study this situation. And it's from all of that and David Jacobs' work as well, which I found very close in those days to my own, like what his findings were. And I went 2 years or more like that. And then I met Ken within that time. And he came down here, lived in Bedford at the time, in Bedfordshire. And because we had a lot going on around here, a heck of a lot going on. And I needed someone else to see what it is I'm seeing, and to, just see the change in the area, because we've got Connecticut here. Connecticut is the leading edge technological site for the whole of Europe. So this lady, big. And it was in '95 that George Bush, the Carlyle group, pretty much bought the site. And I used to also get the inner paper from a source of mine. And this paper would come about once a month. And I would be able to study it, which was good. I mean, she was like, allowed to take it home. But I didn't work there. But then again, I wanted the information. If you're checking things out, man, you go and get that information, whatever which way and how. And that's what I did. And I learned a heck of a lot from that. And each month. And I decided that, I was right on. It was hot, man, really hot. And I was right there, in this hub, with all that's going on. And I noticed as well in the late 80s, early 90s, that say Marconi, Leslie, Ferranti, and many other places were folding up. But, the actual individual companies, but they weren't. They were going into this big place. That's what it was all about. And they wanted the creme de la creme of engineers and everything they could get. And that's how I found out about that. And because they used to have adverts in the papers as well, which was interesting. And I used to think, oh yeah, you want, top metallurgists, you want, also, there's a lot going on here, a lot going on. And this place also, before when it was era, French evaluation search agency. I had a family member who was actually the second ahead of all that, but there's no way he would ever talk about anything. Of course, he didn't. Very, very top class indeed. And he's also one of the most prominent pilots and teaching. He taught flying. He taught the boils and all the different people up there how to fly and everything. He was like there. So that was really interesting. They took me flying a couple of times, which I had a ball, it was brilliant. Not many people have flown off that airfield back then. I mean, it's now a posh airport with private jets and everything. And you've got the government saying, oh, you've got to look after the environment. You've got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. Rubbish. They're flying those things in and out all day, every day. Pollution, what? Oh, come on. Oh, this is a crazy place, man. And it was also the name for it because you got Area 51 Dreamland. I'm sure. Here is Area 52 Magic Kingdom, and that's their inner name. And one day when I went flying with him, my uncle, we came in the main entrance this time, and we had to go into security, and I had to get a little badge, and everything. We went in security, and he said, "Just stand here, please." Well, I stood where they wanted me to stand, and a little camera on the wall went like that to me, and then without a second, but really short time, I had a badge so I could go into the company with him over there, fields fly. And I said, my goodness, knowing I knew what it was called. And I said, cool, I said, it's magic. I said, that was. Oh, he said, it's all magic in here, my dear. All magic. I thought, yeah, yeah, I know, man, I know it's magic, but couldn't, but I'd infiltrated and got in there. Except that's the second time as well. And yeah, it was really interesting going in there. But there, when you look, there's an actual disc on a plinth thing by their main entrance. They call it the Father Flying Saucer. what are you talking about, man? What's going on here? And then with my research from the time when I was taping, 5 years old, in that disc, yeah, um, I found out in 2002, just all those years later, that the airmen did a program, two of them affected, Flight Lieutenant Hubbard and another guy that was working there. And nearly all the airmen stood together on this one. This thing had been flying, this disc had been flying over Farnborough, over between Guildford and Barnum, and all around the area, and loads of people had seen it flying far too low sometimes. They weren't, planes were not allowed to fly like that, but at the same time, they hadn't broken the sound barrier yet, yeah, and it was going at about 800 to 1,000 miles an hour. And that's a lot, isn't it? So, yeah, this went on, and
So that was a human-made UFO?
no, oh no, they were nothing to do with this place. I don't think so at all, no. Because they hadn't even broken the sound barrier. So how could they do that, 800 to 1,000 miles an hour yet, We know because we lived here and we used to have the booms while they were perfecting this boom, boom, all over the place. But this, they admitted that this was what was happening, and they all got together, all the airmen, and they said, right, we're very concerned about this. So they said they all went together up to the office, and they went to see the bosses. And one uncle, I guess he was a young guy then, but he would be part of it, I'm sure of it. And they said, look, we are, we're airmen, and we are skilled, visually, everything. If we don't know what we're looking at, then, who does? This is going on. And it's here, and wow. Well, the bosses said, well, that we get at least 30, 30 sightings a year. Yeah. And they said, no, we didn't. They said, oh, yeah, we get quite a lot of sightings. Wow, I thought, right. So they said, well, if you want, would you like to start the flying saucer um uh, group, something like that. So that's how it all started. I believe that's how it started. Went up to London, of course, and they've still got places up there, the Pasha. But yeah, they said yes, we would, because we're very concerned. It's just after the war sort of thing, few years, and if we don't know what we're seeing, the Internet does. So yeah, they said we would. We're very concerned. It's not Russia, it's not Germany, it's not. This is something else, something else. So that's how it all started, and it's been going on ever since.
Um, to come back to when you were 3, in your book, you talk about a story where long-robed figures would come into your bedroom.
Yeah, I had bedroom visitors, and they'd come through the wall, and they're a bit like, I suppose, a bit like Bible figures, sort of robes, but they'd bring some unusual things with them, and they would bring. One of them had a ball, like a plasma ball, and it wouldn't be on his hand, it would be above, and he'd be able to go like this or like that, and so on, and he would control it, but it was from the mind, this is the thing, yeah. Well, I thought, right, and then he also had another time there been a triangular thing that would spin and stuff, and they showed me how to do that. But I also feel I was being taken and going up into the car, and like a kiddies play school kind of thing. But it's where I can't draw it because I sort of can't remember clearly as much as I could after I'd been an abductee and older. I could understand better. But yeah, this is what happened. And yeah, they were going to show me things that I was obviously chosen for something. You know, some things maybe it's my background because on the on my father's side I'm Levitical Jew. Jewish. See, and I guess that's on my father's side of things. My mother was English and that, but you didn't, you know, men didn't quite, well, Jewish blokes living here. I mean, he was lucky. He was like my papa, as I called him. He was his stepfather, because the other one wasn't any good. It were naughty boys, actual dad. And he had my sister himself. And my grandma met what we used to call my papa. And he he got a divorce and then married my papa, Porter, and came to England because he was based here. He worked for the army and stuff back in the 30s and late 20s, whatever. And then they came here in 1934 and they remained here ever since. So that kind of saved our family, if you like. And that is important. And I felt, you know, as though something was happening to me, you know. I mean, you know it's happening, but, you know, as I'm growing up, things are getting more and more, and I'm thinking, wow, you know. And you can't tell anybody, not really. But I didn't have to. I had a friend who used to play together, and it was one day, about 1959, something like that, 58. We were standing at the bottom of the road saying, well, what should we do today? You know, shall we go for a walk, get our bikes, go out? Well, things happened to us quite often when we were together. And I know that something was twinkling in the side of my eye. And it was a disc. Funny enough, it's practically over where I'm living now. And then I said, hey, Janet, look, look, look. And she looked, oh, she said, crikey, what's that? I said, that's a disc. Well, the thing kind of hyperly, about a mile, boom, boom. And there it was in the sky above us. Well, just to the wrong side of the road, the other side of the road. And it was white and it sort of this shape that it came to a point either side of it. There was a section of it open. This section of it was open, had a white figure in it, a big, probably a reptilian type figure, a big, big thing, standing with its arms out, its legs out across the opening of this. Oh boy, oh man, we were gone. You know, she looked at me, I looked at her. Straight back home, she jumped, you know, rushed into her garden and got back indoors, and I went to my place and got back indoors. And I don't think we went out at all the rest of that summer holidays because it was summer holidays. We were too damn frightened. So, you know, there have been things with other people when I've been with them over the years, but he remembers it, but she's remarried and life's different and he doesn't want to talk about it.
When I was reading the book, an event that happened in 1962 that really struck hard to me because you watched the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still,
Yep,
and
yep, yep. Yeah, well, we belonged to the Fernhill 61 Club, which was a school-based club. And the Friday night, once a month on a Friday night, you had a film night. And this is what they chose, you know. And so I thought, right, okay. And I didn't think anything of it to start with. She was down the back, down it, my friend, and she got a new boyfriend, so we won't go there. But I was sitting with another guy and a couple more people further forward, watching the screen, and then all of a sudden, this disc came down, and again it opens out, and then you've got Klaatu standing there in the doorway, and it kind of reminded me of, that, I guess she was busy doing other things and didn't see this bit. We won't go into details, but I did, and I was absolutely petrified. Oh man, oh God. Oh, I was crying. I got up and I took myself out. I said, I've got to go, I've got to go. It's only you feel me, or don't worry, don't worry. No, no, I've got to go, I've got to go. And I ran all the way home, absolutely all the way home. I don't know what my parents thought. I came bounding in the door and they thought, oh, blimey, he's back already. No peace and quiet tonight. And I couldn't tell them anything. I just said, oh, I just didn't like the film, so I'm home. So yeah, that was really scary. Yeah, it brought it all back. That was one of the most frightening things at that time I ever went through. Yeah.
But when you came back home, something happened. A white man appeared.
Oh, now that yes, later in the year 1962, when we had the Cuban crisis, I guess everybody, America, of course, because you know you were tied up with this, and um, here in Britain, watching America and Russia and all this stuff going on. And yeah, we all went to bed not thinking, are we going to get up in the morning, because quite honestly, we didn't know. Really, really scary. And all of a sudden, I was in my bed, in my bedroom, my little room, and suddenly the whole place lit up. The room completely lit up. Brilliant white. And I knew I wasn't sleeping or anything because I could see, if I looked like that, I could see the curtain and the lights and the street lamp outside just a little bit. Ah, there he was. Jesus, Lord Jesus, with his fingers like that. And standing at the bottom of the bed, and he said, do not fear me, for I haven't come to harm you or anything like that. But no, that's okay. I know who you are because we go to Sunday school and all that sort of thing like kids do. Uh, then he was suddenly at the side of my bed and he took those two fingers. Well, he spoke in scripture, quite a lot, and I couldn't remember everything. I was only young. And then he said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I'll be with you for all time. And he took those two fingers and put them on my forehead here. And it felt like between the icebox and an electric shock kind of feeling. Very powerful. And then he stood up and he said, I will never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'll be with you to the end of the world. Okay. So I didn't say that. I was just amazed. Amazed. Then he went back to the bottom of the bed and then he disappeared, just like gone. And the room was now dark again. And I felt all the tension, all the stress that had been building up over the weeks, with this thing going on, just leave me. And for the first time, I just slept all night. When I woke up in the morning, I remembered it, I remembered everything. And I had to go to work because, I had a job and I had to go to it. And later in the day, I thought, I want to tell somebody, but who do I tell? I can't tell my mum and dad, and I can't just anybody. I can't do it. So I thought my nan lives with us. My nan took me to church when I was only 5, 6 years old, and I thought it'd be her. So I told her about it. She said, I think you've been a very lucky girl. She said, it's obviously something very special, about what's going on. So I said, thanks, Nan. She said, I'll never tell anyone.
So did he? You said that he looked like a bit like a typical Nordic, perhaps alien, or
Well, not really, I wouldn't say really. Um, I do know what they look like, but I haven't seen them on board craft. He just just like you see it very much in depicted in Bibles and that sort of thing. You know. I guess I get a feeling. Uh, he's glowing. He's glowing from head to foot. Absolutely glowing. You know, just amazing. And yeah, I knew it was.
The reason why I wanted to get into this,
Yeah.
in 2015, I used to date an English bird. We were supposed to get married. We met at Walmart's. No, everything was prophesized by a medium that we'd meet up, and she changed my life. She turned out to be an abductee from Britain, and we dated. My phone was tapped for an entire year. Eventually, I worked in the mining industry. The mining industry went downhill, and so lack of money and exploration, and eventually, because of that, I couldn't support her in a sense that for the customs because to bring her over from the UK. And eventually, I had to sell my house. I moved in with my dad, and like she went back home. And 6 months later, we had to break up. So a lot of things went downhill for me. And because of her, the second night she was at my house, we called in a craft over my house, just above the house. A week later, I was able at my dad's place in the woods. I called in the same craft an hour in. It flew over my dad's house or just over the trees. My mom and dad saw it. And maybe like a year later, around this was in 2015 on New Year's Eve. I I was at my dad's place taking care of the dog. He was out because my mom died like a few months before that, so everything went downhill. I do a C5, nothing happens. I go inside, I sage the house, and eventually I go to sleep. So now we're in New Year's Day of 2016. During the night, I get a powerful electric shock to the head.
Yeah.
I wake up in a jolt thinking somebody's in the bedroom, so I start kicking in the air. And see, I don't have my glasses on. It's full. It's in the woods where it's dark. I don't see anything. There's no lights from outside. So then I realize nobody's there. I turn around and look at the clock right beside me. It's 1:11 a.m.
Right.
So I got the message like, okay, you called, we came, and because I would get a lot of taps on the body. Now they'd wake me up at night just to say, hey, we came. Sometimes they'd wake me up twice during the same night. So I had a lot of stuff up until, because in 2016 in January, I had an open heart surgery. So I had a lot of sort of visitation up to that because, I was thinking of suicide and stuff like that. So I had a lot of stuff happen with UFOs and star people up to that event. So I guess I was able to cope with my eventual open heart surgery because it's really traumatic. So when I was reading your electric shock to the head, not many people that I researched had that. So I really had to share that with you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting.
In 1964, you were on a date, and after I think leaving the cinema, you saw a 20-foot long cigar-shaped UFO. I think.
We saw three all in a matter of 20 minutes. Well, half an hour got. Yeah, we're walking back the Hawley Lane, where we live. That's my ex. He's still around. He's going today, actually. And yeah, we were coming home and just talking about the film. I think we need to see what was it? One of the films in those days, like you do. And so we got the bus back and walking along, and he suddenly hugged my arm. He said, "Oh, look." And oh boy, there was this, cigar-shaped thing. I'm going across the sky towards a place called kind of east, towards Frimley, generally speaking, and it hung in the sky for a little while, and it had an orange light at the back and a white light on the front, and it was gushing full of smoke. But it wasn't massively huge, but it wasn't tiny either. It was, something, wow. Anyway, it turned itself round. So the orange light was on the front, white light on the back. But there's still this gushing of stuff coming out, smoky stuff. And then it carried on over to Finley. We got home and we thought, wow, it's interesting. And and my boyfriend there, he worked for the big place, as he called it, in the early days, Royal Aircraft Establishment, doing an apprenticeship and everything. And fairly young guy, a bit older than me. Just went to take the dog out. We thought, well, we'll take the dog out tonight, a little walk. Dandy, our golden Labrador. So we're at the door, and suddenly another one comes across, and my parents see it and everything. Well, my dad is also part of or was, the Royal Aircraft Establishment. There's a kind of, well, don't say anything about it, just say, oh, yeah, right, I've seen it, kind of attitude. And, well, we were beasts, it was interesting. So we took the dog and we went down the bottom of the road and into the field, where they can go, have a mooch in there. Whilst we were about to just go into the field, we turned the corner, there's a hedge, large house along this bit of road. And the dog started whining. We said, what's the matter, boy? What's the matter? And he was trying to get under the head of all things. Oh, this thinking thing was coming down another one. More or less where I am now, all the way down the Hawley Lane and across, headed on, above it. And then it turned and went over Finley. So we guessed that all three of these things were going over to the Finley area. The angle the other one was in, it was flying over from the house, when we were about to leave the house with the dog. So as soon as it had gone, the dog was fine. And off he went into the field, had a little mooch around and, gave me his little last walk, or his last little walk, and then we took it back. And, yeah, he saw three things on that one night. He had seen other things, but he had a situation where he was into telemetry, as you call it in America, and they were connected to Willow in Australia. It's already been said by Jenny Randall, but I know it's true. That's the other writer. She's old, quite old woman. Don't hear from her too much now. Anyhow, she's already done fishing in on this stuff. That night, he met me and we were going to go just down to the club. It's our lady club, actually. And down it's about half a mile. He said, but he was alright, he was all sort of withdrawn and anxious and just, I said, hey, boy, what's the matter? So he said, had a brain phase and really fine. He said, I was doing my telemetry or telemetry work. And he said, I picked up these strange signals. They were coming in fast, I had no idea. He said, I'm certainly not from this earth. He said, that's a fact. And then he said, we came to find out that if we were connected to Wimmera, and then they got back to them and said, we had to stop or abort the rockets that they were going to send off. Because in those days, in the RAE, they made Black Arrow and Blue Streak and things like that. It's all documented. It's nothing, I'm not saying anything I don't already know. Anyway, but it just came down and two beings came out, white suit, and they walked right where the rocket is. Like on the where on the Wimmera launching pad. And that stopped it all. They couldn't do anything then, and they deliberately hung about for quite a while, and they were able to, I think, stop anything that they were doing. They could, they've got the power. In other words, they can do it on.
When you were 18, you went through you had a gynecological exam that,
Yeah, did. Yeah, you see, yeah, I've been abducted now for quite some time, but not remembering. These things have been taken from me, and well, I had problems. I used to have ovary pains, and we talk much more openly today than we did back then, and guys as well, because it's all part of my work that I do as a counsellor. And I talk to guys about personal things as well, because yeah, that's what they're doing, and I used to get these dreadful pains, and I knew that something was really wrong. And the nurse at the company I worked for said, want me to go to a gynecologist. You need to get checked out. Well, Mum wouldn't come with me, no one would come with me, and I was scared out of my box. But oh boy, well, I couldn't do it any other way but by train. I had to walk for nearly a mile to the station, get on the train for all the shots, which is about 6 miles away, and then get a bus and take me to Farnham Hospital. Well, I waited, and then I got checked in, and then I was told, right, you're down and subsidized, then you're down, and I went into where the gynecologist was, and he said, he's a red-headed man, he's a very red face. Didn't like the look of him even then, but he said, I know what your problem is. Well, I know that thing, It's like, hasn't met me, no. They said, oh no, we said we've been messing around with boys, haven't we? That's your problem. I said, you what? I said, how dare you? I thought, oh, I wish my mum was there. Anyway, they put me on this bed. I had a nurse holding me down one side, a nurse holding me down the other side of me, and was checking out my most delicate lesions. And oh my goodness, he knew that I hadn't been with anyone, and he just pulled me to bits. And then he found I had
well, you said cervical erosion.
erosion. That's right. Yeah. And oh, he said we'll sort that out. Oh, well, anyway, he burnt me, in the cervix. Oh God, it's so painful. Oh, it's just so much that up there. And then they said, right, we're finished now. You can get up and you can go home. Well, I felt absolute rubbish, Oh, I got up and God, just staggered to the little changing room, got changed. How I got to the bus stop, I'll never know. Or got home, I'll never know. The bus pulled away rather sharply, and I fell backwards into one of the seats. Dizzy scream of agony. Then I got home, but I fell in the front door. I was white as a sheet. My nan was with us, and Nan said, "Oh my God!" And she got hold of me and steadied me and everything. And then Mum poked her head round the kitchen door, and she said, "Oh dear," she said, "you're not." I go, "No, I'm not." I said, "I'm going to go to bed." Oh, I just go to bed. And somehow I staggered up the stairs, went to my room. I said, I can't move. I'm in agony. And then I explained gradually over the hours what had happened to me. And everything, yeah, that was awful. And put me on the pill for 6 months. He said that should sort things out. Well, I ballooned out about a stone and a half as well. And then he, that was it. I still got pains, actually. Because you see, when you're an abductee, they are taking you, and they're taking the eggs that you produce every month. And that's what they want. And, they don't care what it does to you, as long as they get what they want. And that's how it was. And, I lived with that for a lot of years. A lot of years.
Now, you were talking about a really pretty cool aspect when you were explaining about the Greys. You talked about a Russian doll multiverse theory. The regarding the spirit body, you talked about.
Yeah. Well, you're taken molecularly. That's how they do it. And this is when they say that the abductee says I was taken to the Rimworld or through a war or something. When they come, they take you molecularly. They take your whole molecular structure, and when you go with them, you're in their domain, as it were, and they know what they're doing. They know how to do it, and they do. They take. Then you go back to your more being yourself, being the person you are on board their ship. Or there is times when it's almost out of body kind of experience as well. And whatever happens to your out of body body happens to your physical body as well. That I was working on and have worked on. Yeah, I'm pretty close to what they do to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that amazing that if an alien would do a surgery on your spirit body, there'd be a manifestation of that area that was been worked on your physical body.
Yeah, there is. There is.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. Because you're all part of the one thing. It's just crazy, but it is true. And, people beginning to see that now. This could not work out. That's why you don't see people flying out of the window or through the wall or anything like that, because you're going molecularly.
Yeah.
Basically, what makes me done.
Let me see. Let's get into some of the really good stuff. Okay. One time you had to go to a Farnham hospital because I think you just gave birth.
Well, no, I did give birth there. I did. And Sally was born 11 weeks early, but they didn't actually do anything to me as such. I mean, that's another story, which I've written about, because Sally was 11 weeks early. And this is the trouble with abductees, women especially. If they've made babies out of all eggs and all that kind of thing, but when it comes to you having a child, that's not necessarily the case. So you are at a disadvantage, very much so. You probably will never have children as such either, because of what they've done here. But about 1972, 1972, I'd had Sally. She was now getting on, wasn't quite a year old, 10 months old. And when she was born, they trained me in what they call an episiotomy. Because she was very, very delicate and very tiny. Only 14 inches long when she was born. That's 29 weeks. They stitched me up. They cut me, you see, and then they stitched me up. They got to get on with that. But they did it all wrong, didn't they? Just, it all went wrong, and I was in agony for 10 months. Then it came towards the end of the year, and they said you can come into the hospital and have this rectified, sorted out. I thought, well, thank goodness for that, So I went in about very early December 1972. I was supposed to be there just 3 days. Wednesday, Thursday, and come home on the Friday. Well, got in there into the ward, and got pre-op and all that sort of thing done. Then the next day I was supposed to go down and have this bit of work done. Very, very simple. Shouldn't have been under for long. Except I was out for 17 hours. The stuff they gave me, to put me out. I can't imagine, but they did. And instead of coming round towards lunchtime or about, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I came, I could hear people, and I could, even my ex-old man, is he now, husband, he came, but I don't know why I bothered, you're out of it, you can't do it. I thought I would have run for him, I tell you. I thought, oh, I can hear you, but bloody, I can't do anything, Oh, anyway, 4 in the morning, I finally come out of it, and I want the bathroom. I got to the bathroom. On the wall in the bathroom was a huge cupboard, and in that cupboard, as the door was open, there were jars of what do you call them?
Fetuses?
Hybrid,
Okay.
hybrid babies, hybrid babies. I thought, oh my God, and they've got no eye, well, the tiny ones, there's no eyelid or anything like that. The blood, like all black eyes, tiny little, little uh, slits for a nose, and a little tiny nothing now. So that's nothing. That's the earliest one's about 13 weeks. They are all together, their arms down in between their legs, and they're very long and very long and very thin, and the legs are long and thin compared with and the body very small, obviously when it's flying, and it's got a red mark right here in the chest. And I looked all the way down at all these different little creatures, I thought, oh my God, they are doing it, they are, this is, oh boy. Uh, oh my God. Anyway, I dashed in and dashed out of there. I thought, no, I shouldn't be seeing this. I could be in danger. So I poked my head around the corner. Still no nurse there or anything. I dropped back into my bed, put the covers over. I watched her coming in. The doors, there were those swing doors. And bang, bang. I thought, he had a tray with a uh, cover over it. Detail cover, that kind of thing, cover. And she walked into the ladies' toilet. And then she heard chink, chink. And then the door goes bang and it locked. Another one stillborn. And she goes out with the flat tray and it's just a crop thing and disappeared too with all of them. I thought, yeah, this is something else now. Oh man. Oh, it was like, oh, it's blazing on the brain, and because the bigger ones went right up to about 24 weeks. And still they've got no eyelid or like a big black eyes and very, very small feet. Yeah, it's just like the little greys, really, that kind of thing. It's after, and I thought, wow, this is happening here. Yeah. So I couldn't tell anyone. I mean, okay, I was glad to get home the next morning. I said, right, I'm going home. I thought, okay, I'm feeling all right. So they let me go and went home. I kept it to myself for quite a while, but gradually it's come out. I felt it was important, but it did over the years. Women need to know about all this and what happened to them. That they give them birth, they're not allowed to see the kitty, little baby or anything, and that's probably why, because it's part them, but it's part alien. They've been impregnated by them, carried them 20 feet, and then carry them for a short while, and then you abort them because they are fully your genetics, aren't they? After them. Yeah. Well, quite frightening, very revealing, and I found that all the way through my experiences. I've had to go through some absolutely awful things, but in order to learn about what's going on. Yeah. Not something I would have chosen to do, but looking back on it now, I'm glad I know what I know. I had to be there for a purpose.
In 1973, you saw a red tentacled saucer.
1973, yep. Yeah, that was a night. There were warm summer evenings, and I lived in a flat at the time, not far from where I hit here. Barry was just a baby. Robert was there to sleep or whatever. I got out, went into the kitchen. I thought I'd make myself a cup of water or something, but it's then I noticed something out through the kitchen window, so I don't close the curtain. We're upstairs. And I thought, wow. Well, when I got a telescope, an ex-military telescope, and I thought, wow. So I got it. It was already on its tripod. Got it sighted up and everything. Oh my God, this thing was sort of going like this. It was fluid. And then suddenly it went into this olive. And then with that, had a red band down the bit. And then it had tentacles. Suddenly came down loads of tentacles, red, and sort of waving and and then all of a sudden these little tiny bits or whatever you want to call them were coming out of these tentacles to the ground. And they were all coming out. I thought, oh wow, wow. I thought about the buzzing in the ears. This is far more important. And of course, with what I used to do, and I do, and I still do, if I get a sighting or things important like that, I am an artist. Get that in the book, get that drawn in and time, date, weather, everything important. So that's why it is the diaries in the collection, because that's what I did. And the following night it did it again, because I have to admit I had to go to work the next day. And I suppose I lost half an hour when I was just so taken back by the thing. Then the following night I was laying there and it started again with my ears. I thought, oh, there. I got out of bed, went into the kitchen, and crikey, it's out there again. There it was, hanging. The tentacles of the little things, all red, all come pouring out of these tentacles underneath this disc. And I think I lost an hour or more this time. Suddenly it was like 11:30, and it was all now 1:30. I don't quite know what happened there, because I know I wasn't out too long, so I was concerned about getting up in the morning. But yeah, dead word that one.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Now you think you witnessed what was possibly a crash retrieval simulation in
oh, yeah,
'75.
yeah, 1977, and Bob, then been my husband for a year. It'd been a very hot July day, and we came home and we had evening meal. And then he said, "You want to go for a ride tonight? Take Sal with us." I said, "Yeah, great idea." So we dumped in the motel. He said, I think I'll go the back way and we'll get over toward the beach. He said, and there's a nice pub there. We'll go and have a pub up there, you know. I said, yeah, great idea. Oh, that's what we were planning to do. We went through not there, oh, yeah, the manor, this manor house up there, yeah, the manor. And we went through the grounds and everything seemed normal. So we got to the other side of the grounds. Then it was colder. We ran up, dark, 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 and we could see army buses behind him coming in, at least three at that point. And soldiers jumping out, fully armed, you know, combat gear, and they were whizzing off all around the woods, disappearing, you know, into the trees and everything. So we had to turn round. So as we were turning round, on the one side, well, the side of the sea, it was like a burn mark on the ground, quite large, circular burn mark. And I said to Bob, I said, here, can you see that? It's not, yeah. He said, well, what's been going on? I said, oh, I don't know, but I want to, you know, doesn't feel right. So, perhaps they're doing maneuvers, you know, something like that. We went back the way we came, and as we got down round the bend of the road and round, suddenly, about a 10-foot ground, the ground went up about 10 feet, and then down and into mainly ferns, things like that. There was no trees in the area. And I said, wow, can you see that? And he looked at his eyes and I said, can you see those beings in the white, really, really thin, you know, standing there, all looking the same way as the soldiers gaining ground, you know. He said, yeah, I can. I can. What's going on? I said, I don't know. He had to drive. So we started running down into this clearing. When they got down into the clearing, they vanished right there in front of us. Oh boy. I said, did you see that? He said, yeah, I saw them coming down. Where have they gone? I said, well, they've vanished.
Now, okay, so you talked about seeing those two men running away from these army personnel. Now, do you think that they were like humans acting as aliens?
No, far too thin. Far too thin. No, no, we're not made that thin. They were in a white suits together with helmets on, but they were really skinny, really, really thin. They're like matchstick men. No, they were different.
In 1979, you met what I call a man in black. He seemed to have like flawless baby skin. What happened?
Yeah. Well, that was the mid, calling mid, man in black. And it was a cold January day, 16th of January, freezing cold. I went to get Sally from her bus, which they wouldn't bring her up the hill when she was tiny, but they would do it when she was older. Crazy, man, crazy. So I walked down with the pushchair as well and a warm blanket. And as I was going down the hill, suddenly everything went quiet, absolutely still and quiet. I thought, wow, you know, what's going on here? This is weird. Nobody was coming. I've got a school nearby, you see. Nobody was coming home from school. Parents weren't going anywhere. And there was not another person or another thing living. That's what it felt like. Couldn't see the window. Some of the lights were on in the houses, but there wasn't any movement. There was nothing. And I thought, oh, I don't like this. This feels weird. I carried on down a little bit further when a man or something came round the corner with a big gate. We walked with a big gate. This way, that way. And he had a long, dark, dark grey coat. He had a filby hat. And he had trousers and It's all in one. Don't ask me how it, I haven't a clue how that worked, but that's what he had. And it was very heavy. I think it was very heavy. Boot. Donk, 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 donk. And he had white chiseled hair just under his ear, completely brilliant on it. And he stopped near the garages, and I thought, oh God, now what? Anyhow, and I spoke to him telepathically, and I said, I hope you're not wanting to harm me, because I'm not done anything wrong, and I've got to get my little girl off the bus and to the school, and I don't wish you any. I know you're a spaceman. I said, sure, okay, that I accept that. But I said, will you please, not make me have any problems, because I'm really petrified. He took the trilby and he went like Three Musketeers. He took it all down and then put the hat back on to say, it's okay, come through. So I went on through. As I went by then, to Walton, and I looked up into his face and he had baby skin, like babies. There's no, for a man in his 60s or whatever, he had no blemishes, no nothing. Very, well, it didn't look right, it didn't look normal. And I thought, no, you are something else. And the eyes, there's no pupils, just pale blue, round eye. And the whites of the eyes were also brilliant, brilliant white, like the hair. But I thought, well, whatever. So I said thank you, and I went past him and carried on walking. I went a few steps when suddenly I thought, oh, is he behind me or what? I turned, just with nothing there, absolutely nothing there. So I thought, looking at that, I could go round the back, because there is a route round the back, which you could go further up the road that I'm going to go on in a minute. Still nothing. Nobody anywhere. Complete silence. And I thought, well, I don't know, this is weird. I went down to where the bus stop is by the flat at the bottom of the hill, and still nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I thought, what's happening? Then suddenly, it was like a click, and everything went back to normal. There were cars coming up and down the road, going to the school, and there were parents walking along with kiddies, bikes cycling, rocking kids on bike, and so on. And in the distance was Sally's boat or bus. I thought, oh, thank God, it was weird. And I knew it wasn't normal. So I said, I got Sally out of the bus, and I popped her wrapped her in a blanket in her little pushchair. I mean, she was about 7 at the time, but I could get her home then before it got too cold. Well, I never got up that hill so fast in all my life. I shot up that hill, got in the front path into the house, opened the door, in, locked everything, and I ran around the house, make sure everything was locked, because oh God, what I've just been through. I was then looking very carefully on the side angle of the window, just to see if he was about. He wasn't. It seemed to be all clear. It had gone. Oh, no. But he had been seen, or something like it, 3 times the year before in the summer. 3 women had been approached by him, and there was others that he had no eyes. He just had black pockets. You would think. And there was one guy whose wife came home from shopping, or ran home, crying her eyes out, and that was in North Cap, which is not far from the big place, the big boy. Uh, he said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "This bloke come up, he stood right in front of me, And she said, he didn't have any eyes and just stood there, lighting the light down. And right, he said, I'm going to go and get this guy, what's he playing at? This is not on, he said. And he was out the door and all round North Town looking for this guy would be playing guys. He said, oh, Lloyd, he said, I'll go for him. He said, how dare he upset you like that? But he never found him, of course. And there were several others in that summer that witnessed this. But the probing was the same, but you sometimes have eyes in and sometimes you didn't.
We missed. We didn't get the chance to talk about the Marconi spaceman.
Yeah. Right. Well, 1974, early April, early April. And that night before, I was washing up, and I lived in a flat at that time. And as I was looking out the window, I saw two big white orbs going down the M3. And when that one went off to Palm, then the other one carried on to Wimley. I couldn't see any more than that because it had houses and trees and all that sort of thing. I thought it was worth putting in my book, so after I finished washing up, I put it in my logbook. Then I forgot all about it. I thought, well. Then the next day, we went on the company's bus. When we got to Marconi, the gates were wide open, no security, nothing at all. I thought, that is really strange, really, really odd. What on earth's happening? And there was such an atmosphere, you could cut it all night. It was so warm. And I thought, where's the security? They're not anywhere. This is strange. Because I've been there a few years, nothing like this would ever happen. It's now Marconi as well. Excuse me. Well, we got dropped off in the central car park and we went our different ways, so there we were. I noticed a big black limo outside the personnel house. The whole house was the one, but it was the personnel was in the company. And I thought, oh, way out, it looked like something's happened, We don't get these limos, for nothing. So I thought, yeah, something has happened, no doubt. Well, when I went through the car park, which goes up the stage, because I worked in this other section of the company. I went through the old house because you could go through the corridors and then down into your drawing office. As I opened the door to go to the old house, there was a chain across the stairs, the bottom of the stairs, and it said strictly no admission beyond this point. Oh, I thought, something really has happened, Oh, I don't like the look of this. So anyway, I've got to be careful because I had mentioned UFOs once before. I was told Pacific, don't ever say anything, Well, but no, keep quiet. Well, just go and check it out for yourself. So what I did, I had luckily a drawing coming in at 9 o'clock, and I've had to go to security. I thought that gives me to the parks to have a quick look around, And so I went, phone rang, and drawing there, and there was one of the security. I went back the way I came, and I took that in again, what was going on. Then when I get down into the car park, I have to go across then to the security hut, across the big main car park. Now, there's another couple of limos next to this other one in the car park, in the personnel section. I thought, what's going on? That is so rare. Something really big has happened. I know, And I was going up to the steps, to go into the security hut, and the door was open. There was smoke coming out. They were having ciggy, and then I could hear their voices saying, "What did you think? I'm going to do the graveyard shift." "Well, you're joking, man. I'm never going to do that again. They can't pay me enough. Couldn't pay any of us enough to do something like that." So they said, "No, we agree, we agree." And I thought, something has happened, we're on it. Anyway, I went clink, clonk up the step. And of course, it all goes quiet. I said, "Just come to get my drawing." They said, "Oh, yes, it's here." And they gave it to me. And said nothing, just carried on as per normal. And down the steps, then across the car park. I thought, I know what I'll do. You see, I had to be at this place, and I had to put up with nearly a year of sheer hell, really, because I went back to work for a while to get some more skills, because I wanted to be able to do some sort of work like this long term. Well, I went up the main entrance, and as I went up the steps to the main entrance, I then went up the next flight of steps as well. Then I went to an engineer's section at the top of the stairs, runs along the top of this building. The good thing was I could go anywhere I liked, because I was a central services electronics engineer draftsman, so nobody would take any notice of me. And you've got a roll under my arm. Good, yeah, great. It's not my way of those. I'm walking along. Da 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 da. I get out the doors at the top, and there's a whole section not there anymore. The prototype section, the men and all the work, that is gone. Gone. They so it never was there. Oh my God, what the heck happened? Well, nobody took any notice. They all got on with what they were doing. So I quickly tiptoed down the side of the passageway and turned to go round just like an L shape. There again was the quickly no admittance beyond this point, put across the passageway, so you couldn't go any further. And of course, there on the other side of the uh, um, the section that they had got rid of, well, suddenly it wasn't there anymore. Post-one was the top secret section. Top secret section had glass windows round it, for the thing you have in your bathroom kind of thing, so you can't see through it. And I thought, "Oh, that sounds, something's gone on. Something really has gone on." Suddenly I felt a feeling of foreboding, and I also got a feeling, something really bad. It was like my brain, oh, something, it was frightening. It was really bad. And I thought, I mustn't be here. This is really dangerous. So I tiptoed back out of there, round and into the back of the factory, down the step at the back, and past the gents and the ladies, and back down onto the ground floor. And then I walked quite casually through with my drawing, back to my drawing office. And then that began, you knew something really important had happened. A few weeks later, about 3 weeks or so, and you start getting these rumours. A lot of rumours, stupid rumours, some of them. Well, that's what happened. And then the first rumour said, "Oh, you had to take everybody out of that section upstairs because there's electrical fault up there in the wiring." I thought, "Oh yeah, come on." And so with that, people thought, "Oh yeah, yeah, well, this is possible, yeah, okay." And that sort of shut people up for a little while. Then, about another 3 weeks or so after that, another rumour went round that it was now the roof. The roof was not right. Something was going wrong with the roof. And it was letting water, dangerous, and they needed to get roofing, construction people in to do the roof. It's sort of, make up your mind, guys. What are you doing here? Anyway, it was nothing like that at all, but that's what it went on. And it rattled on for a good few minutes. Then suddenly, I think the security guards themselves had enough. And they said, they knew that we knew things weren't normal. And they said, we had a break-in, we had something happen, and the bloke who was doing the graveyard shift with his dog, the German Shepherd dog, saw some strange lights. It saw something moving around in the top secret section while he was walking. If you go in the department I went in, you could look over a bit and you could see these little windows. And the next section you get, and something caught his eye. So off he went with the dog. And he went to the top secret section. Well, as he was walking closer, where I'd been, more or less, this blue light was flicking about all over the place. I thought, what the heck's going on? So he opened the door and found as a grey alien with a light strapped to its head, going rifling through all our top secret stuff. Bearing in mind they didn't have computers quite like you've got now, sort of thing. I mean, ticker tape type thing, but nothing like you've got now. And so things are drawing and that sort of thing. And yeah, he was writing. So, well, whatever happened to the guy, I mean, he probably lit completely, and never saw him again. That day, after this, never saw him again. They'd taken him off somewhere. They had a job, to keep this down all the time. Then, just before I left there, because I was going to leave about the end of May, early June, it was a nice warm sunny day, and I took a book and my sandwiches and a drink, and I sat down, wanted to get a bit of sunshine, and I sat quite happily on the bench just outside the office that I worked in. But I never thought about it because the boss's office was just up in the house, just not quite close to me really. And I'm reading away, and suddenly ring, 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 ring. Oh, looked up. Oh, it's the boss's phone. He had all the windows open. You think it was hot? You say, yes, mate. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. He said, but what can we do? He said, because if they can get in here, they can, with all the security we've got, they can get in anywhere. He said, this is, it's very worrying. Anyway, I thought, yep, not on the chocolate. And I knew I had to get out of there in case he came to the window and saw me. So I grabbed all my stuff and dropped through underneath the pack of break and to another place in the location. So yeah, that was something that really happened.
Do you know why they were there? Were they after something?
Wow. Yeah, well, you see, they were very advanced even then. And it could have been that the advancement was coming from them. You don't know, but the need to know basis when you work there. And, I reckon, they were either, very concerned maybe about what we were doing or some of what we developed, perhaps. And those early things were to do with like the cell phones that we've got now and all this sort of thing. And we know what damage some of these things can do, all the time. And then there was the killings in 1980s where bosses were there and other parts of Marconi were being killed. They said, oh, they committed suicide. What with their hands were tied behind their backs, tied up, and their feet. How could they commit suicide like that? Oh, come on. There was a lot of yeah, very, very bad. They tried to cover it, but it never worked. It never worked.
So I guess some of them tried to, burn their bridges, so to speak,
Yeah.
to stop, whatever follow up. Wow. Um, Now, before we finish, I'd like to get into maybe two stories because in '79 you started to get a lot of more abductions in your bedroom, but in '82 there were 7 grays in your bedroom.
Well, I had all the greys like from 79 right up till 82. Coming regularly through a portal in the wall. I had to see this Sally because Sally had epilepsy sometimes. And I knew I had to be really fast, to help her if she suddenly had fits and things like that. My Jenny little girl then, but not very old. And we were then on our own as well. I got a divorce. Mm, But that's another story altogether. Um, they knocked about, things like that. So, um, yeah, it started in about June time. And we had 79, and this portal would suddenly brilliant circle of light in the bedroom wall, and then this cowled figure would come through and stand always to the left of this portal, head down and good to his face. Then ushered the greys. We had anything up to 7 greys, like little kids almost, and rushing down the beds and things. Yeah, and the picture in the front of the book is suddenly being taken, and I can't do a thing about it. Laying there, and all I can do is my eyes, what they're doing. Then you get the bigger grey come, and he comes up the side of my bed, and he puts gradually poking the body, and so he's right up here in his face, and trying to with those eyes, his big black eyes, trying to drink everything out of me or whatever he's doing. Oh, it's horrible, but I don't remember anything after that. All I know is they take them, whatever happens to us, and then we're brought back, and so on. And yeah, that went on quite a lot throughout the 79, 80, 81, 1980. You had the big black figure right here where I'm speaking. Huge black figure standing in the middle of the window. And it was April time. And I just got Sally off to bed around 7:30. The days were just drawing out a little bit. And so I came down here to get a bit of a rest. When I come in the room, and and there's this huge black figure standing with helmet and everything on, all black. Can't see through the helmet even in the daylight. It's still daylight, and I thought, well, this is something that doesn't happen every day, girl. Don't panic. Don't take everything in that you can, because this is very rare. I thought I was really brave, and he stood there and he put his hand up and went back to me. And I thought I'd do the same. So I think, oh, that was, yeah, okay, made contact in that sense. I'm not sure how much longer he stood right up by the window, but then he didn't walk, he glided. And he glided that 5 feet back to the um, wall, because I've got a garden, a tiered garden. I think I live right on top of the hill. Yeah. And he was there, just there like that. And then he went great little steps. Got garden steps at the edge of the garden. And he was on the step. Oh boy, was he big. I mean, he was 7 foot then at the window. And now he was 8 foot. Oh, yeah, he was big. And you couldn't see my neighbour's greenhouse or shed. It was so big. and all of a sudden, it's gone.
So do you have any closing comments you might want to share with everyone?
Well, with everything that's going on today, and I happen to know from a lot of research, reptilians are real, and with what they're doing with the jabs and all that sort of thing, a lot of it's been taking place here, over on Surrey Heath at the laboratories over there. With what you don't see of the animals and things, and they've been doing stuff for years and years and years. And yeah, they know a lot going on, but it is coming from up there.
Oh,
A lot of stuff is coming on. Absolutely, I've been watching it. Ken's seen it too. He said, you see these things coming in, flying in, and I've got a monocular infrared, and I can see things with that as well. And there are times when it looks like what you can see are just going across the area where they are hovering, and they do land, and there's no real landing, but they do land. But there are also those you cannot see it take off from the ground, and they just go straight up into the heavens, literally. I've never seen anything like it. But there's a lot going on. There's a big story just in that alone. We do know that they've been up to it for a long time.
Yeah.
Really have. Right, well, I hope you got some good meat there. That you can really work with.
Yeah, people really need to buy your book, because you got beautiful drawings that I'll be sharing here too. But you've written so much, so much.
Yeah, that's it. There's that book you say is my art book. You go onto the site, and then you can see all the books with me being taken when I was 3, being taken by the Greys. The front cover is there. You can see it.
So yeah, I'll be able to share the link to your work on Amazon, so people can purchase that.
Yeah.
And so to those who had the pleasure of watching, hope you enjoyed today's show. More interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, see you in the world.
Bye-bye. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, DT phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.